The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Touchdown, Seahawks!
It's time to BS.
Whoa! Well, looks like it's just the two of us today, Kevin.
Okay, we can carry the load.
This is fine. This is
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
We're chilling.
We are chilling. I don't know how we're supposed to measure up to that opening, though. I guess we'll do our best.
I don't know. We'll figure it out. We usually do figure these things out half the time. We usually do. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Department of BS. From the beaches of lovely Long Island, New York, wow, that looks like a typo and a half. Wow. There it is. This is Seahawks Sessions, part of the Belly Up Sports and Belly Up Media Networks, also part of the Time DBS Staying Smooth family of shows. 7-Eleven coffee. Can't beat it.
Okay,
This,
I'll take your word
for it. This is a hill I will die on. 7-Eleven coffee, if you want good and cheap, effective coffee. 7-Eleven, that's a hill I will die on. I don't know. Did you know that 7-Eleven was founded in Dallas?
I did not know that. Did you know that, Mary?
What?
7-Eleven was founded in Dallas.
I didn't know that.
Okay, so none of us know that. apparently.
Now we know.
That's
and
right.
knowing is half the battle, isn't
Okay.
it?
That's right.
That is Kevin Wilson of Belly Up Sports, a writer for Belly Up Media. He's coming to you from the great state of Texas. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Staying Smooth and at Time to BS Podcast. There it is. Kevin62 will see on Twitter. And you can follow for clips of the show at Time to BS Podcast on Instagram and at Staying Smooth on TikTok. We're coming to you from the Emerald Kingdome Studios. And Kevin, what's up?
You know, it's a great time right now.
It is.
It is. If you're into sports, okay, because we just finished with the NFL draft and all the twists and turns that had going on in it, and then you've got playoffs in basketball, playoffs in hockey, baseball, which is my big passion right there. So
Yeah.
if I don't know if you can't get into some kind of sports right now, I really don't know what to say.
I mean, if you're into that stuff, some people are into like going to concerts during the summer. Like my fiance, she'll watch hockey with me, but like she will not watch like football with basketball with me. Like she'll just scroll on her phone, scrolling through Jonas Brothers Twitter, which is like, all right, you do you. Like, I don't judge.
No, not Jonas Brothers. We need some, Deep Purple or something like that rolling.
I was watching a great movie the other day.
Okay.
Have you heard of Crash?
I have. I've not seen it.
Great film.
Okay.
Great film.
Okay.
If every single character in this movie interacts with each other in one way, in certain different ways, and you have to watch the movie twice in order to really like, oh, that's where you come in. You know what I mean? It's like you've seen Memento, right? You remember the movie? Yeah, it's very similar to Memento in that way.
Okay.
Where every character, where you almost have to watch it twice in order to really get the whole gist of like, oh, that's what happened here. It's a great cast too. Don Cheadle's in there, Brendan Fraser, Sandra Bullock, phenomenal cast. Ludacris, for some reason, is in this film. But it takes place in Los Angeles, like a few years after, like 2004 Los Angeles. So, bit uptight,
Right.
but it's still LA. It's still Los Angeles.
Okay.
But and as I said, every character intertwines with one another in some random way. But it's a deep movie. It's a dark movie, but it's a great film. Highly recommend to anyone that's listening. Go watch Crash. I'm sure you could find it at a thrift store on DVD or stream it if you're into
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. Nobody goes to buy DVDs anymore. You stream that
What the
bad
hell?
boy.
I have a tower of DVDs right
Well, I
behind
do
me.
too, but that's all past stuff now. So
I love my DVD collection. I may be a young whippersnapper, but I do love my DVDs, Kevin.
okay, I'm looking at DVDs that are like eye high. So
Yeah.
we can do that here. But like I said, there's a lot of great movies that we have over there. But when it comes to movies that are now,
Yeah.
because that's what piggybacking off what you're saying. This weekend we watched The Accountant 1 and 2,
Oh, great
and
films.
those were awesome movies.
Great films.
You had the Punisher running around, and of course you had Batman and Daredevil all rolled into one.
Yeah.
And so awesome movies right there. So
Yes.
I can't say enough about those. And there he is running around, just whacking people all over the place.
There's a lot of randomly good movies.
There are.
Filmmaking today is very similar to the music industry today. When there's bad music, there's bad music.
Ugh.
When there's bad movies, there's really bad movies.
Really, yeah. They definitely, the airplane didn't have any, running, the wheels were not down.
No.
And it just plowed right into the runway.
Oh, it was horrible. And when there's good movies, it's weird because there are really good films out there. I was watching a Netflix film called The Life List. And at first I was like, my expectations for watching movies now are like at a happy medium or dead on the bottom.
Yeah.
And that's how I handle everything with filmmaking, which is, all right, don't expect to see The Godfather Part 2
No.
as every film you've ever seen. Don't.
No.
And I watched The Life List, and I'm sitting watching this film and going, this doesn't suck. Like, a Netflix exclusive film doesn't suck. Like,
Okay,
this is a really good movie.
By. So
It's a really good movie, and I was surprisingly stunned to know it's like a 2-hour film, reasonable amount of time, but it's really good. It's really well done. The acting is sincere. It's serious, and you can tell it's like, oh, this is like really like legitimate passion that these actors and actresses are going, and it's not an unknown cast. But they're pretty unknown actors and actresses. So, like, they're not mainstream. And mainstream media is so ungodly bad.
yeah,
Today.
The less we say about that, probably the better.
In terms of, like, movies and music. It's
and life in general.
But we have some draft stuff to talk about. We'll go around the NFL. For starters, but then we'll go in the Seahawks perspective from the last pick all the way to the first round. So we'll go from 7 to 1.
Okay.
We'll take a break somewhere in between this shenanigans,
Right. Because money has to be made, right? Sure.
This show ain't free.
That's right.
But we'll give our thoughts about all 11 draft picks for the Seahawks. They start out with 10 and they finish with 11, which is nice.
Right.
And every single one of these players can get some snaps down the road. Whether it's, middle of the season, special teams, starter level, somewhere down the line, these players are going to see some significant playing time.
Right.
So we'll start off with the first overall pick in the NFL draft. If you watch college football, this is not surprising at all. Cam Ward from the University of Miami, Florida, first overall to the Tennessee Titans, and People are like, "Oh, it should have been Shador Sanders." I'm like, "Why? Actually, why?"
Right.
Like Shador, like all credit where credit is due to Shador, where he, showed some flashes at Colorado, but Cam Moore was going first overall. If not him, then Travis Hunter. Right?
Right. Absolutely.
I mean, what did you think of, I'm pretty sure you can agree with this whole thing. Cam Moore was going first overall.
Yeah, and that surprised nobody.
Nobody.
Maybe it surprised members of the Sanders family, but that would be about all. And you haven't heard a word about Cam Ward since he was picked.
Yeah.
And that's the most amazing thing of all about this.
Yeah, I've loved the kid when he was at Wazoo with Washington State. He was solid for Wazoo for a couple years.
So if you go to Wazoo, you better be solid.
Wasn't he with Houston? He was at the University of Houston for a bit, right?
Or
am I thinking of Derek King? For that. I'm thinking of Derek King. Give me a second.
Okay. But we do real-time research here, so.
Real-time research, as we usually do on these things. Cam Ward. I can't type to save my life.
Yeah.
QB. Yeah, Washington State.
Okay.
He played for Washington State. How about that? Yeah,
okay.
I'm thinking of Derek King. That's why I'm thinking two former Hurricane quarterbacks. That's probably why.
Okay.
Jesus, Derek King was also pretty good with Miami too. Pretty good quarterback with the Hurricanes. Second pick, Cleveland was on the clock, and then out of nowhere, Jacksonville goes, "We'll take Travis Hunter for you."
Right.
Trade up with the Browns. Take utility man Travis Hunter. At number 2 overall, this is your franchise player now, Jacksonville.
Yeah, he's got to be
by default,
right? Because it's not certain quarterbacks out of Clemson anymore, and so if there's a career that needs to be get some oxygen going on,
Trevor.
It's got to be Trevor.
I feel so bad for him because I liked Doug Peterson as a head coach for the Jaguars. I thought that was a really solid hire when they made it.
And it worked right out of the gate.
It worked for 2 years.
They won the playoff game.
Yeah, it worked
coming
for
back
2 years.
From, what was it, 28-0? And won. And so everything was looking up, and then he got hurt, and it's been a downhill slide with no, stopping to glance at the, what you're passing as you're going down the hill.
Yeah.
And so
you're just rolling down the hill, and as a boulder just follows you right behind you.
Right. And so this is a move that Trevor, if he can't make this work, then there's no salvation here.
Well, you're stuck with him if you're the Jaguars because
right,
that contract,
which is true.
It's half true. I mean, we've seen teams that decide to trade quarterbacks with massive contracts in the past. It has happened before, but not to the degree of Trevor Lawrence. Because
we can ask the Browns about massive deals for quarterbacks. So
Jesus,
we probably rather not get into that. So
no kid.
So this is the last gasp for Trevor Lawrence down there in Jacksonville, and this guy's got the oomph, in his game, and he unlike his Colorado teammate, he brings it to the field, he brings it to his station, and he's talking to people, and so this is a move I think that could work really well for Jacksonville.
Agreed, but I don't know. It's hard to say because the head coach is new,
right?
The GM is new. It doesn't look really good out of the gate, but Cohen can coach. Liam Cohen is a good play caller. So that does help a little bit, but at the same point,
Well,
eh.
he's not a certain coach from Ohio State, so we've got that going on.
Travis Hunter is a better DB than he is a receiver, and that says a lot. But
That's well, maybe, but that's not what Jacksonville needs. I don't believe.
that's not what Jacksonville needs. Is
No,
like, hey,
they
need to
need
get,
the electricity that a wide receiver can bring that's scoring from 50 yards out.
and they got to get butts in seats because
That's right.
we can go off the deep end about Jaguars ownership in the last 15 years, but as much as the Jaguars had two good seasons, two since 2008, two playoff teams.
Right.
That's it.
Right. When they
That's
were
it.
when they were in New England and people were dreaming, they might dreaming.
Yeah.
Okay. But because that didn't happen, and then he had
I would have loved it.
yeah, and they beat the Chargers, and then
They went toe to toe with the Chiefs too. They went toe
and they
to toe with
did.
Kansas City.
They absolutely did. So you think that things were on the upswing,
Yeah.
but the upswing hit the dirt
Real fast.
real fast and real hard. So
Real fast. Yeah.
real fast, real hard. So they need him to be a receiver to me and tell him, you can't play both ways.
I mean, we've seen it before.
If you want to be alive in any case.
It's happened before in the last 30 years with Troy Brown with the Patriots. That's the last time that at least I remember it happening. And then before that, it was Deion Sanders. So,
right. Well, he played like three different. He played offense, defense, and center field. So,
yeah, I mean,
or
it
was
can
it left
happen.
field? So whatever it was he was doing three separate things all on the same day back in the day.
Yeah, which was very impressive back in the day. And now with the new CBAs, you can't do that. So, thanks CBA, collective bargaining agreements.
And of course, Bo Jackson.
Yeah, too. That's a player that I wish never gotten hurt.
Right.
Oh, he would have been in the Hall of Fame in the NFL.
Right.
Absolutely. I still remember watching those film of him running by Brian Bosworth.
Yeah.
Speaking of Seahawks,
Something. We don't really need to get into that. So.
Yeah, one of the great busts in NFL history.
Absolutely.
One of the great what ifs.
Yeah,
of Seahawks football.
I don't know what he was, consuming in Oklahoma.
Everything.
Everything. Okay. And
everything. Squirrels.
But the truck that had everything in it got hijacked or whatever happened and never arrived in Seattle. So
yeah,
it didn't work. Yeah.
He seems like a really good dude. Also, we have I was stunned to learn when he dropped as far as he did. But I was expecting him to drop. I don't think any of us saw this coming.
No.
But if you are like a big proprietor of film study and you watch tape religiously, there's a couple people that have told me, yeah, this kid's tape is not great in terms of footwork. It's not. He's all athlete and that's it.
Right. And he thought that would be enough. That he was an athlete. He thought that would be enough. And
then he got the meetings.
Right.
The pre-draft meetings.
Right. Which none of us were privy to until all this, happened. And then, especially at the Giants.
Yeah.
Because they traded up in the first round and didn't take Sanders, of course.
Yeah. They took Jackson Dart.
Right.
Who's not bad.
Right.
Not a bad quarterback at Ole Miss.
He was, we've talked about him before. He was slotted in some drafts into the Seahawks camp.
Yeah.
And, but Brian Dable had some interesting things to say about Shedeur Sanders. And, that they gave him an offensive package to study before their meeting. And he didn't even pay, he didn't study it. He didn't know anything about it. Went in there unprepared. So the Giants were like, "We're done with you."
Yeah, it's like what that like.
So
Yeah, I feel bad for the kid, but I don't.
I don't, because like I was, and our good buddy from No Credentials Required. I was commenting when they were on the show the other day, and I said that this is the biggest humble pie I've ever seen in my life.
Yes, and we've seen Johnny Manziel drop.
Well, but he didn't drop 78 rounds like this guy did.
Yeah,
and but maybe this is what he needed to be dropped like this.
Yeah.
It cost him a lot of money, of course, but he seemed like he thought he was the king of the earth.
King shit. He thought it was king shit. Yeah.
Yeah. And he thought he was like a prime rib sandwich.
Ooh.
But then when the NFL execs looked at it, they found out it was a BLT, but there was no B on it.
Oh, I'm about to say to you, there's nothing wrong with a good old fashioned BLT.
No. I love a
with some salt,
BLT.
pepper, and mayo.
I'm telling you right now.
Yeah, but
Those,
there's no bacon.
are out there listening. BLTs are right there. So
Yes,
but he was
Agreed.
a BLT without the B.
Oh, that would have been disappointment and a half.
It would talk about.
Oof.
It goes beyond disappointment.
You just throw out the sandwich and you're just like,
Right.
what the hell? This is just a salad.
So that's exactly what happened here. And it's really sad to me that there are so many people that immediately go to, well, nobody wants a strong black man.
Cam Ward went first overall.
That's right. The first overall pick from the University of Miami.
Who was it?
Right?
Steven Jackson? Who was it? Steven Jackson that said that?
I think it was Ryan Clark.
No, it was Steven Jackson who said that with his podcast. He was like, yeah, no one wants a strong black man. And then the comments were like, Cam Ward literally went first overall.
Right. And he went to the University of Miami. And I'm pretty sure that the University of Miami players know how to be a little outrageous. Going back to the day of Jimmy Johnson and everything else. So that didn't seem to bother NFL executives.
No. It's all the matter of hey, if you think you're hot shit, if you can't play the position, and if you can't be professional, we got a problem. Now, what does help his situation, I'm not kidding, he goes to Cleveland.
Well,
this could very well help him because Deshaun Watson is probably not going to be there much longer.
No, he doesn't need to be there. Period.
No, he doesn't need to be there. He doesn't need to be there.
And if you're Cleveland, you got to hope that you have a doctor that maybe you can slip him some golf, times or whatever it is. And so he'll sit there and say, well, he's injured enough where he'll never be able to play again.
Correct.
So then you save some of that money that you gave him off of insurance.
Yes.
And so that's the only thing that Deshaun Watson can bring, that the Seahawks have a doctor that they can, like I said, share some tea times with him or whatever it is.
Correct.
To sit there and say, well, he can't play football ever again.
Yeah.
He needs to be nowhere near that locker room. Nowhere near.
I'm with you on that part. And, it's such a hard situation to look at because, Shador did it to himself.
He did.
He did it to himself. And
his dad didn't help the descent.
Dion did not help. No, Primetime did not help with that situation here.
No, at all.
But it's almost like the LeVar Ball thing all over again, which sucks because, his sons, two of them, were really good in college.
Really good.
Really good.
And they'd still be really good if it wasn't for some injuries.
Yeah, Lonzo, right? Lonzo.
Yeah.
Tore his knee like crazy.
Right.
Good player at the Bulls, too. And then,
and it's real unfortunate that he just hasn't been healthy.
LaMelo, too. Jesus.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Huh. So, but they went a little bit, later because all that nonsense that the dad was pulling. And so they should have taken notice of that. Yeah, nobody expected he'd fall this far, though.
Yeah.
And
It was shocking.
I really don't understand what the Browns are doing. And my good friend Dale is a Browns guy, so he probably doesn't want to hear this. But why do you take Dylan Gabriel out of the University of Oregon,
who's good,
and turn right around 2 rounds later and take Shedeur Sanders?
Yeah, the Dylan Gabriel pick didn't make any sense.
Well, it might have made sense at the time. But when they picked Shedeur Sanders, it makes no sense whatsoever. You took that 3rd round pick and just flushed it down the drain.
And Mel Kiper, Jesus, Mel Kiper.
That guy, is there another guy that needs to check his medication? Is there more of a guy that needs to check his medication than him?
I don't know. Kendrick Perkins is pretty close.
He is.
Kendrick Perkins is pretty close. But Mel Kiper, I used to respect, I never really respected the hell out of Mel Kiper because,
no.
I mean, who was it? Bill Tobin with the Colts? Like, Bill Tobin checked him and like, hey, listen, like, who is this guy?
Right.
Because this is a guy who's never put on shoulder pads, never put on a helmet. He thinks he knows everything about who you should take and who you shouldn't take in the draft. And he gets paid millions upon millions of dollars for dang near 50 years. To do what? To do what?
To be wrong is what he's doing.
To be wrong. Like, didn't he say, like, if I would retire if Jimmy Clausen doesn't turn out to be a Hall of Fame quarterback?
Jimmy Clausen out of the University of Notre Dame.
Oh, my God.
All right. Yeah. And so, all you have to do is fire up some, and you don't have to, you can go back as far as you want, but not that far. And
Not
just look at
all.
tape of what he's had to say over the years. And he is as wrong as anyone.
And he'll double down on it.
And that's exactly what he did do. Doubling down on, what the NFL drives. What was it? It disgusts me, is what he said. And that's just, just shut up.
It's crazy. It's just shut up.
Yeah, right. He might as well had a gun underneath his table over there and used it on his fellow cohorts. The way he cut into them.
Jesus.
And so it's the whole thing.
Your Texas is showing, Kevin.
I understand that. Okay.
I love it.
Okay. But when he said, I'm disgusted and the NFL has never known how to properly rate quarterbacks, and I'm like, so you don't know how to rate, tires. Okay.
Okay.
What's a good tire to put on your car? Don't ask Mel Kiper, because you're not going to get the right answer.
I mean, to be fair, Tom Brady was a 6th round pick. So
right.
That's Tom
not
Brady.
To say that people get it wrong, because of course they do.
Yeah.
But hopefully, if you are wrong, you don't double down on the wrong.
My favorite of all time is Merrill Hodge. Merrill Hodge, when Johnny Manziel was declaring for the NFL draft, said, I predict whoever takes Johnny Manziel in the 1st round, the head coach would be fired in 2 years, and the general manager that took him would be fired in 2 years. And what happened? Mike Penn and the general manager both fired in 2 years.
And both fired, and that's a good example, though, because Mel Kiper said he should be the 1st overall pick.
Oh, my God.
In that particular draft.
Which goes back to the argument of, if you actually watch the tape and you actually watch this guy's progressions and his foot movement, was it Bill Walsh? Bill Walsh, the legendary coach Bill Walsh, would preach about Joe Montana's feet, and not to the degree of Rex Ryan. But I'm talking like, hey, this guy's feet, the motions that he goes through and his movement with the feet is second to none. But people are surprised about, freaking Shedeur Sanders going to the 5th round. Surprised? No, you shouldn't be if you actually watch the film. You shouldn't be.
But that's the thing that really surprises me, because I'm not an expert. I don't sit here and watch film.
I'm not
for hours on end. Okay, but these guys that are on the draft, call, supposedly do. Okay, and they were just as wrong, or even more wrong, than we were. And like I said, they don't. There's never been a time where Mel Kiper said, "You know what? I was wrong about that." And so there's the problem right there. So,
correct. I'm with you 100% on that part. It's a weird shame. I don't know. I mean, as much as you want to throw and say like, oh, Mel Kiper is this, Mel Kiper is that, it's like at the end of the day, he's getting paid way more than we are.
well, that's very true. And but that just goes to show, because Belly Up had live draft coverage, of which I was a part of. By the way, I was there, and so there are alternatives.
Yeah, to
blowhards. There really are.
They really, oh my God, the parade of gas bags, as I like to call it, of ESPN. As I like to call it. But we have to go to break, unfortunately, because we do need to talk about the NFL draft.
Okay.
For the Seahawks and stuff like that. So we will be right back, because as we know, Kevin, this show is not free.
That's right.
It is time for some ads, and we'll be right back after our friends from La-Touraine Watches. This show ain't free, so time for some ads.
Adventure doesn't wait, so why should you? Meet the Commodore, our homage watch to the classic GMT watch, engineered for explorers who never stay in one place. Crafted with Swiss precision, 20 ATM water resistance, and a scratch-resistant sapphire crystal, it's built to thrive on every journey, whether by land, sea, or air. Durable, dependable, and designed to fit, the Commodore is ready for every horizon.
Oh, I forgot to turn my mic on.
Every horizon. I like that a lot.
That's right, friends. Thanks to our friends over at La-Touraine Watches for supporting this podcast over the years. Go to La-Touraine.com, use the promo code TIME, the number 2 and BS, for 20% off your next order. And you got some really solid watches in that collection, Kevin. You really do.
We just saw just a few of them. I'm sure there's probably a lot more to choose from. So
there's a lot more to choose from.
Get over there and check that out for sure.
Absolutely, Kevin. So with that being said, thanks to our friends over at La-Touraine for sponsoring the podcast over the years. And go buy their stuff. They make some really cool shit. So, we have the NFL, we have the Seahawks draft to go to, and we teased it at the very beginning. We'll go from the last pick that they made, round 7 in the 7th round, all the way to their first round pick, Greg Zabel.
Right.
So, and we'll give our takes. We'll give our viewpoints and to see who's special teamer, who may start, who may be useful, who may not. You never know how this goes.
Okay.
So, ready to go, Kevin?
I am absolutely strapped in, so let's do this.
Right on. So let's start off with round 7, pick 238, wide receiver Ricky White out of University of Nevada, Las Vegas. Saw this kid's tape. Not bad, but he screams more special teams guy. But by the way their history goes over in Seattle, he may be a starter at the slot. You never know how this goes. I mean, I don't know if you've seen his tape a lot recently, but he's not a bad player for UNLV.
Well, his problem is that he's got a drop problem.
Yeah.
And so, that and wide receiver is a bad combination. And
Very
so he's going to have to improve that by a wide margin. I think that he could be a special teams guy. And so all these draft picks, I think, have a really good shot at making the final roster this year.
Correct.
But if he wants to be a starter or even a guy that comes in special packages, he's going to have to shore up those hands before any of that is even on the table.
Well, DK had a drop problem over at Ole Miss. But at the same point, I mean, he was also a big guy. He was a big target.
Big guy, and he's 6'1", 184, so that's not big.
No. I mean,
I'm the same height as him, receiver. And I weigh more than him. So that's not saying a lot right there.
I mean, he's a big target for a slot receiver, and this system with Kubiak does use the slot receiver a lot. Like, as in everywhere. So
Well,
that
if he
does
can win
help.
the job and have it so MVS doesn't have to get on the field, then I highly support that.
Jesus, you. Next up, we got a round 7 pick 234. Mason Richmond over at Iowa. Big guy.
Yeah.
Really
This is a
big
big
guy.
guy. You know,
And
6'5".
Iowa linemen. And those Iowa linemen, yeah.
5. Yeah. If there was anything that Iowa's people know how to do, it's be, offensive lineman
Oh, yeah.
or defensive lineman for that matter.
Nebraska,
But,
too.
Nebraska too, no question. All that corn and stuff they got going on over there.
Yeah.
But this guy is 6'5", 307 pounds.
Jesus.
So, he did miss out on a lot of buffets, it would seem.
Oh.
But his issue is that he's not a technician, okay? And he needs to work on that. He's not a tremendous athlete, which you would expect out of a guy that's 6'5" and 307 pounds. You don't need him to be a tremendous athlete if you're that big, but you do need him to be able to, maneuver wherever, the rush
in
is
the
coming
zone
from.
blocking scheme,
And,
of course.
yes, and that seems like that may be an issue for him. And so he's one of the ones that's really going to have to step it up to me to make this roster.
Next up, we go to round 7 pick 223. Damian Martinez from the University of Miami, running back. This kid can run.
He can.
He can run.
He can run. He can run. His issue seems like he can run, but it's only straightforward.
Not a bad thing.
Sometimes that's a good thing. But
Yeah.
if you got 3 defenders that are straight ahead of you, you might want to be able to veer off just a little bit. And so he's going to need to show that he can do that. It's not a big thing because the Seahawks running, back room doesn't have a whole lot of room for, anyone else in it already.
Would you say, we've talked about it before. Do you think this opens up the door for a Kenneth Walker trade?
I do not.
Because Sharps is still there. McIntosh is still there. And we saw a little bit of McIntosh last year. And Charbonnet can catch the ball out of the backfield. What would you say is, aside from running straight forward, Damian's biggest strength? Would it be catching the passes out of the backfield?
He is a good guy for that, it would seem. And so, if he can bring a little razzmatazz to like I said, if all he can do is run straight ahead, there's no, you've got no place on the roster if that's all you can do.
He might end up
he's
being
going to
like
have
the
to show he
scat
can
back.
do other things than that.
Does he remind you of like a Shane Vereen type of guy from the Patriots of years ago?
He does. And so that's not a bad thing.
Not a bad thing at all. Next up, we go to the 6th round, pick 192. Bryce Campbell from the University of Kansas.
Right.
He's another big guy.
6'4", 306 pounds. Not quite as big as we were just talking about.
Yes.
But this guy is a guy that can go laterally, unlike who we just discussed. So he can move east, he can move west. And so this might work out well for him because we all know the Seahawks, even though we'll talk about it in a minute, I'm sure, their first round pick, but they need offensive linemen. I think this could work out really well for them.
Do you think he could start potentially at right guard?
He could. And if he were to do that, I think that because it right guard, left guard,
Maybe center.
maybe center, they need assistance in their middle of their offensive line. We all know
Correct.
that. And so if they can get some starters in that middle section, which you're going to get starters, but I mean starters that deserve to be there.
Mm-hmm.
This will work out well for the Seahawks.
And Kansas linemen are not particularly known for being high draft picks.
No.
But
as a matter of fact, I can't think of a single one other than this one.
I can't name one either off the top of my head. But what I did see a little bit, he will move people. He
Right.
will move people, Bryce. So that is very exciting. We also have the first fullback of the board in quite some time. I cannot pronounce this man's last name, but he's from Alabama. He's a fullback by trade. Robbie, I'm just going to call him Robbie Utz from like the potato chip.
That works for me.
That works for me too.
Utz, we could talk about potato chips. They're outstanding.
They are great chips.
Yes, they are. And so if he could be as outstanding as the potato chips, we are in good shape.
Is he a pass catching fullback? Is he more like, hey, we're going to hit people fullback?
It seems like he could do both of those things,
which is good.
Which is a good thing.
Yes.
And so it's going to be really interesting. What kind of offensive scheme is the Seahawks going to put it in? Like I said, they've got running backs, one we just talked about.
They got 4 of them now, yeah.
Yeah, and so they're going to have a fullback in there as well. You can't have 3 running backs on the field at the same time, presumably. Maybe they can.
But we'll see where this goes. I mean, they'll get creative. They'll get creative.
And there's a guy that we're going to talk about in a minute also that we can get creative with. And so it'll be real interesting to see how this works out for them.
I'm excited because I love me a good fullback. I love just a big fullback running a face first. Mike Allstott.
Yeah. And so but he is athletic.
Which is good.
Because a lot of big guys, we talked about aren't athletic. They're big. And that's their calling card, but he's big and athletic. So this is something that could really work for them. Forget that he's a later round pick. I think this is something that could really work for
I think he's their fullback because before him, Brady Russell, who's a tight end by trade, was projected to be their fullback, which is you lost me.
Well, talk about tight end because he was listed as a tight end on some of the press releases that I saw regarding him.
But then when he came to fullback, I was like, "Oh, exciting!"
Right, and so it just goes to show that he's got some presence, he's got some athletic ability, and so this is something that really, really could work.
We go back to we go to Colorado State in the 5th round of pick 166. Torrey Horton, Colorado State.
Okay,
he's a shifty little fellow.
He is.
He's a shifty little fellow, and he might be your punt returner. Not a bad thing.
He might be. He might be, and that would be fine. And so, he's got some injury situations that he's going to have to show that he's 100% of.
Yes.
And before that, he was a good player.
Yeah.
Before his injuries, and so if he's 100%, which I assume that he will be, and wide receiver was a need for the Seahawks because they've got guys that are 47 years old out there now, and so they need some youth in that wide receiver room.
Kevin is not a fan of the Cooper Kupp signing.
I am. No, don't. Yes, I'm big time in on the Cooper Kupp signing.
I am,
too. And I hope that he shoves it up the Rams' patootie so hard that they can't speak after the game.
Oh, Jesus.
So, you know what I'm saying? And
I know what you're saying.
when the Rams released him, I'm like, please come to the Seahawks.
It was a guarantee.
And show them what they've done to themselves.
We go over to South Bend for Notre Dame. Nose tackle Riley Mills, pick 142 in the 5th round.
Okay.
I've noticed a theme here with these draft picks, and they want to build a bully up here in Seattle.
Right.
They want to build a bully. And I have not seen a lot of Notre Dame film, but what would you say he's a big reason why Notre Dame got to the national title game last year?
He was a huge reason why, and he's also a huge reason why because he was not in the title game. That Notre Dame couldn't do a whole lot once they got there.
Yes.
And so he's saying that he's ahead of schedule. He's not healthy at this point.
No.
And
Which
so,
is why he dropped.
Which
as
is
far
why
as
he
did.
dropped. You know, that's a given. And so because he said he's ahead of schedule and he plans to be at training camp. And if he
Good.
can do that, this is a guy who's 6'5", 296.
He's a starting nose tackle.
And he could be a starting nose tackle. And that's really not Seahawks need some pass rushers. This is really not that.
No, he's a run stopper.
Right.
Which is you need that too, because
the Seahawks have been tremendously horrible at run stopping.
Which is aside from Jaron Reed, they do not have a pure nose tackle. They don't.
Right.
They haven't had a pure nose tackle since since Al Woods was here, which is a while ago.
Yeah, nobody's beating down the doors remembering his name. So
no, yeah. So I mean, I like a good nose tackle, particularly in the 3-4, because he just eats everything up. And add him with Leonard Williams and Byron Murphy. You never know, but he could very well start at the nose tackle position.
He could.
He very well could.
All depends, like I said, is he healthy?
Correct.
If he's not, don't press it, and we'll see what we wind up with.
We go to the third round, back to Alabama.
Okay.
This I was intrigued about. Jalen Milroe from the University of Alabama, who was a Heisman frontrunner at one point for the Crimson Tide. Third round pick, number 92. What I love about him is he's very Jalen Hurts-like in the regard of he may not have the best arm on the face of the planet, but this guy, he is a faster Jalen Hurts, which is rare.
Right. And if you're going to be an Alabama quarterback, it seems like you need to be able to run the football. That's a calling card. If you can't, then don't go to Alabama. And so this is a guy who he found the end zone.
He did.
Okay. He found the end zone, whether he was throwing the football, even though he's not as efficient as that. But he also scored, 20 rushing touchdowns.
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. I've got it written down. Let's see. He had 33. No, I'm wrong. He had 33 rushing touchdowns. Okay.
Oof.
And so this is, we talk about some trick plays and whatever. This is a guy who could be on the field at the same time as Sam Darnold.
Yes, correct.
And then off the defenses aren't going to know what in the world to prepare for.
Mm-hmm.
And so if they do it that way, I think there's a lot to be gained here. Don't expect him to be taking snaps.
No, I mean, here's where I'm curious with, because Sam Darnold essentially signed here. It says 3 years, but it's a 1-year prove-it deal.
Which is exactly what he needs.
What he needs, yes.
That's right. Especially after those last 2 games.
Correct.
He needed to have a 1-year deal where he can show that was just a blip.
Correct. And if Darnold struggles, there is no guarantee that Darnold's going to be the starter the entire season. No guarantee. There is optimism here.
And this is the interesting part to this whole thing, because the trade that the Seahawks made, where they sent Geno Smith to the Raiders.
They got him.
This is the pick right here that they got for that.
Yep.
And so they traded Geno Smith for this guy, essentially. Mm-hmm. And so it's going to be real easy to keep track, going forward, of just how well either side did in this maneuver. So
he's not the most accurate guy in the world, but if there's one thing that he's very well, he has a big arm. He has a really big arm.
Right.
But he's more effective as a running quarterback than anything else.
Right.
which
And-
again, not the worst thing in the world.
right? And he had a 64% completion percentage, but that just means that he didn't throw a lot of deep balls.
No.
That's what
Which
that
is, before you college football fans lose your mind, yes, we are aware that 64% completion percentage in college is not great. But again,
Yeah.
it's
but-
out. Oh, breaking news from the Department of BS Seahawk News. Where is it? I got to get the breaking news department. The Seahawks have announced they have exercised the fifth-year option for left tackle Charles Cross.
Okay.
That was expected.
Okay. They better not let him go anywhere.
No, they're not going to let him go. There's no way.
No.
There's no way.
I'm relatively sure he was a first round draft.
He was.
pick not
he was
too long ago.
He was a product of the Russell Wilson trade.
That's right.
He was picked number 9 overall. You
That's
are
right.
correct.
So you better not let him, hit the road.
Better not. In the second round, we go to the final 3 picks.
Okay.
Backwards.
Okay.
Round 2, pick number 50, tight end Elijah Arroyo from the University of Miami, Florida. At first, I was like, eh? And
That's what I was saying too. Tight end, what are we doing here?
And then I saw the tape. I was like, oh.
Okay.
He's big and can run.
6'5", 250 pounds. This is
Big,
a built
big tight end.
human being right here.
Yes.
And it's kind of interesting that this guy is this big, but his blocking is, for lack of a better word,
Not great.
not great. Okay.
Yes.
And so that's going to, when he's on the field, that's going to tell defenses that this will not be a running play.
Yes.
And so that's the way that's going to work. But as far as tight ends go, when it comes to catching the football, there's not a lot
Mhm.
of guys that are better at it than
He is.
he is.
He was Cam Ward's number 1 target with Miami, by the way.
That's right. That's right.
So if you need anything else to look at, there you go.
Right. And he's
There
got
you
he's got size though, but he's got speed. Okay. He's got athleticism, which is, we said big guy, but he's got athleticism. And so I was a little reluctant because the Seahawks, let's face it, don't know what they're doing with tight ends.
And years past, no.
In years past, they have not known. Okay. And so I was kind of like, they need receiver and wide receiver. This dude can fill that role, even though he's
can.
not a wide receiver.
No.
And so I think this is going to work out. He's going to be a starter. And so what are they going to do with the rest of their room remains to be seen.
Well, Fant's probably being shipped out.
Right. And I
would
was
assume.
never going yay over Noah Fant. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not the fastest guy in the world, but he can run. I'm very high on AJ Barner from Michigan. Very high on this guy. And they just signed Eric Saubert from the 49ers, who's your third string tight end. If
Okay.
not him, then Robbie Utz, who's your fullback.
Right.
But we'll see. But you can never have enough offense.
No.
In terms of the weaponry, you can't.
No. And so at first I was like, tight end? What?
Huh? Yeah.
And so as a matter of fact, we were in the chat when we did this, and I was like, I'm not feeling this.
And then we saw the film.
And
It was like,
then, right, because to be quite honest, I had no idea who Elijah Arroyo was before this draft pick. So
Sean Alexander butched his name so bad.
well, it's not
God
like
bless
this
him.
is a hard name to pronounce. I mean, some of these other names, like the one we're getting ready to talk about, little
Yeah.
more difficult to pronounce, I would imagine.
Speaking of weaponry, good Lord. So in the second round, we saw at the end of the first round, we were all like, how is this kid still not being picked yet?
Right.
Which I was stunned because he was recommended as the top safety on the board. And then out of nowhere, the Hawks trade up, and I immediately screamed, "They're getting Emin because he drew Cam Chancellor comparisons."
Right. I saw that as well. And so that's
This
high
kid's a
praise,
weapon.
to say the least.
This
Gives him
kid
a
is
lot to live
weapon
up
on
to,
defense.
to say the least.
Yes.
And so, but like you're saying, he was right at the top of the board going into the second round.
Mm-hmm.
And Seahawks got him.
They traded up.
Right.
Which they never do.
I expected they would trade back, which they didn't. They traded up here and got a player that wasn't necessarily a need for them. But this guy is a major player. And so they're going to have an excellent secondary.
Correct.
This year. And because they were
he's
middle
gonna
of the road in defense, 14th overall. This is going to help that a lot.
Which if you look with the whole being ranked 14th overall in defense was kind of an albatross here because before Ernest Jones and Tyrese Knight got inserted in the starting linebacker role, they were in the bottom of the league in defense, and then all of a sudden they were
Which
ranked
they've been for years now.
Before
that.
But then when Ernest Jones got here and when Kobe Bryant was inserted as strong safety, Josh Jobe as the nickel corner, and Byron Murphy started to get some better plays and stuff like that, and Tyrese Knight went off. The defense took off. And Emin is going to help.
He is going to help.
This is your Kyle Hamilton.
That's right. And so it says that he's best near line of scrimmage, which, okay.
Cam Chancellor.
Right. And that he needs to tackle with more consistency, which is kind of weird because if you're playing close on the line of scrimmage, then you're expected to tackle.
However, to cut you off, this kid is a missile.
Right.
This kid's a missile at safety, which is at 6'3", 6'4".
6'3", 220.
That is big for safety.
It is. And so
giant.
You're not throwing it in, and he's not the greatest when it comes to deep balls. And so hopefully he's not going to be doing that a whole lot.
Yeah, would you expect Kobe to play the dime safety position? Because Emin is going to start.
Absolutely.
He's going to start at strong safety.
Right.
No way they don't have him start.
You can mark that down and just chip it in stone right now. It's going to happen.
Absolutely. I was so excited when they drafted him. I thought, like, when they traded up, I was like, oh, Emin is still there. And I texted you and Dustin.
Yes.
And I was like, this better be for Emin
And it was.
There's no way it's not.
No.
And when they took him, I said, you got Cam Chancellor. You got Cam Chancellor. Because he drew Kyle Duggar comparisons and Kyle Hamilton comparisons, but he screams a faster Cam Chancellor, which is scary.
It is. And so if you got Cam Chancellor, like you said, and the missile is locked in,
that's
there
scary.
There could be some body parts that get removed.
Ooh, like
when
Jack
he comes
Tatum.
in there for a tackle. So
like Jack Tatum with the Raiders in years past.
Years past, that's right.
Oh, that's a guy who should be in the Hall of Fame, but he's not going to because he paralyzed a few players.
That's right.
Oh, it's a shame.
Yeah,
he was my favorite Raider.
I don't have a favorite Raider, just so you know that.
I don't blame you for that because you
you have
more years ahead of me.
Yeah, I was around when the Raiders and the Seahawks were in the same division.
Yes,
and so it is physically impossible, even though they're trying real hard to bring me over because they got Geno Smith now, and they've got, of course, Pete Carroll as the head coach, and so, but Vegas, I'm sorry, Raiders. I actually have been to a Raiders game when they were in LA.
Raider
That's how far long ago that was.
Raider Nation is awesome.
Yeah, you just, if you go to a Raiders game, just so you know, don't wear the opposing team's jersey.
No, because they will fight you.
That's right. Because I went to, and this was in San Diego when they were there, the Chargers and the Raiders played each other, and a friend of mine had tickets, so we went, and there was a guy who got stabbed at the game.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
I believe that. Raider Nation is awesome, but they are
Right, but
rowdy.
this is in San Diego. You might want to,
Wow.
you might want to cool the jets just a little bit when you're, because I've been in enemy territory many, many times.
Yeah, I
life.
was there.
Okay,
I
many
was at the
times.
Jets.
Okay, and so, but doing that in Raidersville, not
No
recommend.
good. No good.
Not recommend.
No good.
No.
Not recommend. Do not recommend.
No.
First round pick, number 18 overall, the most obvious selection in this entire draft when the Hawks were on the board. Greg Zabel from North Dakota State. Guard, tackle, center. He can play everywhere on the offensive line. Which just insert him in the left guard position, right? Because that's where he's going.
Yeah, at least for now.
At least for now. Yeah.
All right, he could be the center at some point.
He very well could.
Could be.
Which wouldn't be the worst idea in the world, by the way.
No, but if you're going to do that, you better make sure you've got a competent left guard.
Yeah.
So
good
so
point.
that finding a center might be a much better option than that. So
Good point. I mean, Oluwatimi isn't a bad center.
right,
He
but
played-
that's
he
not
played
the
well.
bar. That should not be the bar.
No, correct.
He's not a bad. It's like going to a restaurant and you say that's not bad. That's not the bar. Okay.
Yeah, I've
We
been to
want
a
it
few
to be-
Italian restaurants like that.
Right, and it needs to be good, at least good, if not great.
Correct. This was so obvious
Well, I
from
tell
the
you,
get-go.
yeah, because as you're well aware, I was live on the
Yeah.
Belly Up YouTube
Mhm.
channel
Mhm.
right? while they are on the clock, and I thought that Tyler Booker would be available at the 18th pick of the first round.
Thanks, Dallas.
Yeah, and that's exactly what when Dallas picked him, I was like, damn it. And my
Yeah.
wife was like, what's the matter? And I'm like, well, the Cowboys took who I wanted the Seahawks to pick. At number 12, I think that's too early for him. That's just my thought on that.
Yeah.
At number 18, that would have been a much better, much more valuable pick to me. But as I did not expect there would be 4 offensive linemen off the board
Yeah,
early in
especially
the draft. I
fourth
thought
pick.
maybe 2, 3 at the most.
Especially the 4th pick, too, with the Patriots.
Right.
With Will Campbell from LSU. Not a bad player.
Not a
really
bad
good
player
at
at all.
LSU.
Yeah.
Really good player at LSU. But Jesus. I mean, to be fair, the Patriots also having a left tackle since Nate Solder was there, but still.
Right.
But
So
still.
that was fine. I knew that they weren't going to get him. Right. I knew that.
Yeah.
I knew that they weren't going to get the guy out of Texas. I knew that.
Yeah.
And so, but I thought that Tyler Booker was a legitimate shot guy at number 18. And when he was off the board, and then I was live and I was just praying, because
Mhm.
the Seahawks have deviated, for lack of a better term,
Yep.
and then pick somebody, because I had my draft board. I had who I thought was at the top of it. I had, my offensive lineman. I thought offensive lineman is the way you have to go in this pick. But then I've got the wide receivers, and I had some other players all listed. And I thought, man, they're going to pick somebody that I don't have on my board, and I'm going to sit here and look like I'm a complete
Oh, my
buffoon.
God. LJ Collier.
But fortunately for all concerned, that is not what happened.
Correct.
And they took Gray Zabel, and I was very pleased.
I was too. I think we all
Very,
were.
very pleased. And that came across I was very forceful in how I showed how pleased I was with this pick. They needed
you were.
this. They needed this. And you could discuss whether the need or the best player available is the way to go. And I think that this guy meets both of those criteria. And apparently, because I saw that Gray Zabel was at the top of the Seahawks draft board. And so this worked out for everybody concerned.
Correct. And by the way, this is the 4th time, actually, no, the 5th time that the Seahawks have used a first-round pick on the offensive line. The last one being Charles Cross. Before that, Jermaine Ifedi. Before that, James Carpenter. And then before that, Russell Okung.
Right. That's true. But he's the highest drafted guard since Steve Hutchinson in 2001.
Hall of Famer, Steve
Hall of
Hutchinson, by
Famer,
the
no
way.
question. All right. So, and from what I understand, that Steve Hutchinson spoke very highly of this man.
He can move people too.
And right. And so I was all down with Gray Zabel, even though he went to North Dakota State. And I said this on the live, North Dakota State is not Notre Dame. Okay. It's not Texas.
No, but they are a football powerhouse.
They are.
In the FCS.
As you mentioned, I'm in the Dallas area. So the FCS title game has been about 20 miles from me every single year.
Mm-hmm.
And those more times than not, North Dakota State is involved in that.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I'm well aware of how great a university they are.
Carson Wentz, by the way, won 3 of them.
Yes. And so, but he allayed all any kind of concerns when he went to the Senior Bowl, unlike Shedeur Sanders, okay? And he dominated.
Yes.
As an offensive lineman.
Yes.
Okay? Dominated. Not just played well, dominated.
Which is key.
And then he went to the combine and he blew the doors off of several, NFL executives.
He's an athlete.
He's this guy is 6'6". Okay. 316 pounds.
Wow.
6'6". Okay.
Coach's dream.
Oh, it is. And so, but he can play. He's an athlete, and so he can play anywhere on the offensive line, which is key.
Yes.
And so I think they're going to put him at guard, which is where they need to play him.
Yeah.
But they can move him around. He's that big an athlete. So I was very, very happy with this selection.
How big is Charles Cross, out of curiosity? He's 6'4", right?
Hold on. Real-time research.
Real-time research.
Yeah.
From Kevin Wilson.
That's right.
He's 6'4", right?
A few years ago, I would have known this answer.
Yeah, true. I think he's 6'4". Because I might have a prediction for you.
Okay.
After we get Charles Cross's height and weight.
Okay, it's coming. Hold on.
Because internet.
Right.
Internet's a pain.
And my fingers aren't always the best. So
Yeah,
here it comes.
I hear you.
All right. So he's 24 years old, so we got that.
Yeah.
And he is 6'5", 311 pounds.
What are the chances that Charles Cross and Greg Zabel flip positions? Like Greg Zabel's your new left tackle.
Well, they both can play.
They both can play inside and outside.
That's right.
They both can play inside and outside.
But I think that if you have an established player,
Yeah, true.
let that ride.
Good point.
And so I wouldn't do that. And but these guys are practically 6'5", 311. Then you look over here, 6'6", 316.
They're identical almost.
This is a mountain.
Oh,
and this is
yay.
exactly what the Seahawks needed because
Yay.
as we all know, Sam Darnold, okay, I've got more mobility than Sam Darnold does. And so that's not saying a whole lot. And so they needed to get better on the offensive line. Otherwise, all these moves that they're making wouldn't have amounted to a hill beam. And that's exactly what they did.
I'm very excited. I mean, what would you give the Seahawks draft grade? What would you grade this draft class?
I'm gonna say A-.
I'm with you.
Okay, A-.
I'm with you on that one.
Okay, and it can turn into an A if Ricky White finds his hands. Okay, and so but all these players, as I mentioned, have a chance to make it to the roster.
Yeah.
And there's
All of
not a
them.
lot of teams that probably can say that, because when you get later in the draft, they probably just, throw up some Play-Doh on the wall and whoever it sticks to, that's what they're
J.R.
going to take.
Swayze.
Right.
J.R.
And so,
Swayze was a defensive tackle, by the way.
But I
Shifted to
don't
guard.
think that's the case here.
No.
And so I was reading that NFL.com, for what it's worth, which probably not a lot, but gave the Seahawks an A- on this draft.
What did Kuiper give us?
I have no idea.
Let me go look.
Okay.
Give me a second. Keep talking.
I wasn't holding my breath to find out what Mel Kiper thought about pretty much anything.
We're gonna find out.
Okay.
Sports Illustrated.
Okay.
Gave them Greg Zabel was an A+,
Okay.
Evan Warry A-. Overall, A.
Okay.
All right. Where's Mel Kiper? Mel Kiper.
Maybe he's, found a lake cabin and he's going to stay quiet in there for a
With
while.
his pumpkin
hopefully.
pie.
Yeah.
Mel Kiper gave us an A.
Okay. That, like I said, I wasn't holding my breath over that one, but
Chad Reuter, NFL.com, A-.
okay. That's what I saw.
Sports Illustrated, Gilbert Manzano and Matt Verdame. A.
Okay.
Rob Rang, Fox Sports, A.
Okay.
PFF.com, with a bad example, but A. New York Post, Ryan Dunleavy. He's good. I like him. A. Overall,
Okay.
A.
I'll just vouch
I mean,
your
the fact that Kiper
judgment on
gave him
that.
an A, the fact that Kiper gave us an A is like, say what you want about Kiper. It's pretty good.
Which I have done. Okay.
Yeah, we have. We both have.
Yeah.
We just did it earlier.
That's right. We pretty much road graded him, but
Oh, yeah, we did. But oof. All these players can see significant snap time.
they could.
Particularly maybe 5 of the first 6 picks. I mean, Zabes, Emin Wari, Arroyo, Ryan Millis, Robbie Utz, all 5 of them. Cable do also. They all can see significant starting time.
Right.
And what
so,
we all
when it-
said that
when it comes to names, the Cable Duo, isn't that like a great name or what?
that is a great lineman name.
It is.
That's like on par with a Walter Jones. But in terms of like what this entire draft class, they're all starters at some way, shape, or form throughout on their teams. And what I've wanted to touch on also is that to give John Schneider a lot of credit, and the last episode we did, Jackson Bevins did trash
He did.
John Schneider. Give him credit where credit is due. Jackson knows his stuff, and I will give him all the credit in the world for that. He knows his stuff. His criticism, fair to a degree, of John Schneider. The last couple of years, since Pete Carroll left, Schneider has assumed full control of this organization, and he has done the opposite of what he did for 14 years around here. It was always like, oh, they're going to trade back. They're going to trade back. They're going to trade back. They're going to make this stupid trade.
That's what I'm saying. And they're going to pick somebody you never heard of before. And so
LJ
now,
Collier, they're going to take
Yeah.
a Jordan Brooks. They whiff on D. Eskridge when Creed Humphrey was right there. We
Right.
can go down a rabbit hole for that reason.
yeah, after
Um,
getting off to such a great start when they were picking Richard Sherman in the 5th round,
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
that-
It's like
That's 11 years ago now.
we have learned, especially over the last couple of years or so, that maybe Pete was doing more of the
I think
draft.
so. I think he
I
was.
think so too. I mean, it's as much as we don't want to say, particularly like not we, because I've trashed Pete for a long time around here, and I've been very vocal about that, ladies and gentlemen, over the course of the 7 years of doing this stinking show. But it seems like Schneider is rewriting the ship of how the organization wants to do things.
Right.
Which is great.
I
Great.
I agree with that. And I guess I don't guess. It's easier to do that when you have a rookie head coach. And you're the GM. And then, you take in what he has to say, of course, and you say, okay, this is what we're going to do. That's a whole lot different than talking to a guy who's got 12, 14 years in the NFL.
And he's been around the league for dang near 30 years.
He has been, no question.
Which is good.
Which is really good, and I was very pleased when they brought him in.
Yes.
But I'm saying, as the GM, you take in this, what he has to say, and then you make your decision because you're the GM.
Correct. And we took a lot of everything he did when Pete was here with a grain of salt. We did.
Right.
And a lot of the trades that were made, Jimmy Graham, Percy Harvin, Jamal Adams, you're starting to see it a lot more that they were more Pete acquisitions. And particularly in the draft picks, too.
Right.
Eskridge, Trade Brown, LJ Collier.
You can go on and on with
Rashad Penny. I mean, we could go. Jordan Brooks. I mean, we can keep going.
You can keep going, but there's no better example of all this than Percy Harvin.
Absolutely.
He made one big play in the Super Bowl, which
that was it.
I appreciated. I loved watching that. I'll give him credit for that. But that is the only thing that he ever did as a Seahawk.
Which is shocking, but it's
right.
True. But, I mean, there's some people, the Pete loyalists, will disagree with us, and they will find a way to disagree with us because we will clip
that's
this.
Fine. And, you can make your comment.
Yeah.
If you disagree with anything that's been said here today,
please let us know.
Please let us know. With the exception of movies, I think we hit that out of the park. Okay.
Yeah.
And so there's no criticism coming there. But besides that, if you have anything you want to say, please do so.
I mean, this offseason as a whole, I mean, it's not just John, it's also Coach McDonald, too. I mean, he's backpedaled on a lot of the decisions that he has made. A lot of them. And all three of us here, we're super critical of the Geno Smith trade. Super critical.
We couldn't have been more critical of that.
Correct. And then as the weeks have gone by and the months have gone by, it's sort of like, okay, we now see what they want to do.
Right. And so, that's why we're not in charge of anything.
Thank God.
So, yeah, right. And because they made the move with Geno, then made the trade with DK. And you're like, well, who in the world's going to throw the football now?
And
who, if he did, who's going to catch it?
And then we saw the moves come in.
Then Tyler Lockett, stepped down, which we all knew that was coming.
By the way, he signed with Tennessee.
He did. I saw that, so I wished him all the best when he's playing over there. Good for him. But, when you're almost 40, Father Time is undefeated and all that.
Nashville's a good city. I'll give him that. But, but back to the Schneider, it's wild because we've seen a lot of these moves that Schneider has made in the last 2 or 3 years, and they've gone like, oh, these are the complete opposite of what Pete would do. The opposite. Pete would double down and he'll go get, a Ziggy Ansah who's way past his prime.
Right.
or, a Sheldon Richardson trade, which was, at the time was not bad, but, looking back on it, it was bad. Trading Frank Clark. There's another one, which is you shouldn't have made that trade, but whatever. The drafting of LJ Collier and so forth, and it's like, and Schneider's like, I am going to fix this problem. And he's done that.
He has done that. So, the runway is open for the Seahawks. And so they're in a division. It's going to be tough. We know that.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, but
it's not, so tough as some other divisions that we can talk about. But
correct.
And so, if they would at least, go, 1-1 against the 49ers, that'd be appreciated. Right?
Yeah.
And,
we could probably agree here that the toughest test in their division is the Rams.
Absolutely. That's been the
absolutely.
Case. That's been the case as good as the 49ers have been. And they've been, they've been to the Super Bowl, so they've been really good.
Twice, yes.
Yes. And so, but the bar isn't far behind, if it's at all behind when it comes to the Rams. And then the Cardinals have not been an easy out either when it comes to the Seahawks. The Seahawks are making the playoffs and they go play Arizona and then and they lose.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a lot less chance this year of any of that going on. So
yeah, have your expectations changed at all for the Seahawks for 2025 after the draft? I mean, where do you stand? Because I'm excited. I mean, we'll predict the season when the schedule does come out in a month.
Well, we know who they're going to play. We just don't know when.
We don't know when. We know who they're going to play. We just don't know when.
That's right.
But, I mean, my expectations are, okay, you have a very good chance because Philadelphia lost a lot of players. Detroit lost a lot of players.
And their coaching staff.
And their coach, more important than their coaching staff. But still, it's like a lot of the top teams in the NFC, you're starting to see them go, okay, like Philadelphia won the Super Bowl, granted, but they lost a lot of pieces. You can almost see them going, all right, this is our division to win in the NFC West, and they have a very good chance. But at the same point, it's April. We're post-draft.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We have no idea how this season is going to play out. I've lived by a rule. At certain points of the season, then we can decide what our team is. For me, it's November 1st. By November 1st in the NFL,
you got 8 games or so in the bag by then, 9 games or so.
We will know what our team is like by November 1st. We will know.
Right.
So, and we can make all the predictions in the world, but the fact of the matter, it doesn't matter until the cleats hit the turf.
Right.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. And so, it's like if you're in a fantasy, which of course I am, there are already people that are getting ready to do their rookie drafts. So my recommendation is to hold the horses a little bit on that and do a little research before, you dive in. Because last year, that's what we all did in Belly Up is the rookie drafts were on Wednesday to Thursday after, Thursday was the first round. By Wednesday, we were doing rookie drafts. It's like, can we hold up just a little bit? And that's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same thing here. And can we hold up?
Lower your dang expectations, people.
And I have to say, it was a roller coaster ride because, like you said, when they first traded Geno, I'm like, okay, so they went from a 10-win team to what, 7 wins now?
But
then
there's
they
no
trade
way in hell they
DK.
rebuild after 10
so
wins.
what are we, 6 wins now?
No way they rebuild after 10 wins. We did say, yeah, we did say that, and we did manage to. I think me and Dustin probably got you off that high horse. So I'll take a little bit of credit for that.
Okay, you can do that all day long. That's fine.
That's fine. That's fine.
And so we went from 10 to 7 to 6 back up to I'm going to probably 11 should probably be about where the bar is on this team.
I'm with you on that part, and I'm very excited to see where the future of the team goes. We do have to close up shop.
Okay.
But what are your final thoughts on the Seahawks so far? I mean, do you think that the defense goes from top 15 to top 10 to top 5 and the offense improves drastically?
Well, I think that because the defense, as we mentioned, finished at 14, and the offense was 14 as well.
Shocker of the day.
That's the real shocker right there. So, we talked, and Dustin has talked about red zone interceptions. I think that's going to get cleared now.
Correct.
And so I'm excited about what we're coming into in this rendition of Seahawks football. And so the roller coaster ride is over now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I like a roller coaster ride just as much as the next guy. Okay. But now we're on the ride that just, we're rising. We're going up in the air. We're going up, and that's where I think that the Seahawks are doing. And so I'm really excited about what we have in store.
I can say proudly for the first time in 10 years, my expectations are sky high for this team. I mean, 10 years ago, I famously predicted them to go back to the Super Bowl for a third year in a row, play the Broncos. I got one part right. I got the Broncos right. But since then, the Seahawks have been steadily at 10 wins.
Right.
I think
maybe 9.
Yep, or 9. Right. I think your expectations right now are 12, 13 wins. And by the way the draft picks show, and by the way the free agent moves have gone and the trades, I say it's a fair bet to make. So I'm very excited, and I think we're all very excited here.
That's right.
And,
so,
by the way,
there's some, fans that are sitting in their chairs and they got the forlorn look on their faces, going, "What did my team just do?" I don't know, but that's not the case here at all. And so there's reason to be excited. I'm sure Dustin is excited.
Yeah, we forgot to touch about that. Dustin's not here.
Yeah, I know Dustin wanted to be here today, but he had plans. So we hope whatever it is he's doing, he's having fun doing it.
Yeah.
And so
we'll get him on back soon.
We'll get him. Yeah, we'll definitely get his thoughts on this. And because we know that he is not shy of giving his opinion,
he's not. And I give him credit for that.
Which is all good.
Which is good.
Good.
Nothing wrong.
And everybody that knows me knows I am not afraid to express myself. So
neither am I.
No, and neither of you. That's fair. That's clear.
Very clear.
Very clear. So I think we were very clear in everything we discussed in this particular show right here. So
that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for tuning in to Seahawks Sessions episode 10. Thanks to Kevin Wilson, as always, for joining in, Belly Up Writer and Belly Up Fantasy Sports. You can find him on Twitter at Kevin62WillC. You can find me, Staniel Sooth, on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram at Staniel Sooth, and follow clips of the show at Time to BS Podcast and the YouTube channel as well. That's Kevin Wilson. He's coming to you from the great state of Texas.
That's right.
My name is Staniel Sooth. I'm coming to you from the beaches of lovely Long Island, New York. And we will see you all in this life and most certainly the next one. Cheers, everyone.
Everybody have a great